How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to Headcases, and today's guest is a 10-time Emmy-nominated and 4-time Guild Awarded winning hairstylist. She is the key hairstylist for The Voice and Shark Tank. The tough times in her life gave her the realization how to change the path of her own success, and she documented how to do it in her best-selling book, The 5 F Words to Manifesting Your Life. It's a message worth hearing and implementing. She is the first person to do a doubleheader on Headcases. So welcome back, Jerilynn Stephens. Jerilynn, it is great to have you back, and I want you to know, I said this in the announcement as well, that in your intro, that you are the first person that we've done a double with. You're the first one that's been back on as a repeat, just because we loved what you were talking about so much prior. So welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yeah, no, well, listen, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about the book, and that's really what we want to focus on here. And, it's really interesting because, I know for those of you watching right now, you'll see it, but for listening, I've got the book up right now, The 5 F Words to Manifesting Your Life by Jerilynn Stephens. And Jerilynn, and I constantly I guess I got somebody in my life. I have somebody in my name named Marilyn, and I keep rhyming it, so I apologize, Jerilynn.
Well, it's because you said my name's like Marilyn with a J.
Yes, exactly. So thanks for letting me off the hook. But Jerilynn, I talk to so many people in our industry, the beauty industry, and it so often I talk to them about, and they are always saying they don't feel that they get what they really want out of life. And that's where, again, that I really think that your book really helps people to get what it is that they want. So how did the book came about for you? What kind of revelation or whatever happened? What happened to you along that path?
So how did I decide to write a book?
Yeah. Where did this come from to start with?
Okay. So do we want to talk about how I got into the whole law of attraction, or do we want to talk about how the book actually came about?
Yeah, well, I think that we were talking beforehand, but what happened, maybe let's try it this way. So what happened in your life to make you shift your mindset? And then how did that turn about to turn it into the book?
Oh, that's a really good question. So when I was 33, I'm now 54. So when I was 33, I hit a complete rock bottom with alcohol, and I was so desperate to feel better. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I first, got a 12-step program. And then I started hearing, I was working in a barbershop on Sunset, and I heard 3 times in that week, "You should read this book, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting." And I was like, that title is exactly the book I need. And the third person who said it to me, I was like, that's so crazy. I heard it 3 times this week. And he said, that means you're supposed to go buy it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So I went down, I bought it. I read it so quickly. It was talking about, the law of attraction and how to feel your life already existing the way you want it to. So that was really hard for me, honestly, because to feel for me was, I would rather not,
right.
I would rather drink and not feel. So that was, something that I really had a challenge with, but I forced myself to challenge myself to feel. I knew I wanted to be in Hollywood doing hair. So I started a mantra because the book said start a mantra. And I started my mantra was, I am a Hollywood hairstylist.
Mm.
And I even like smile now because I am a Hollywood hairstylist. Like that is me. And I even have my Instagram handle, Hollywood hairstylist, because it has such deep meaning to me. And so it was just like, even though I didn't have it in that moment, I just kept feeling and saying it and like what it would feel like when I actually get that big job that changes my life. And so within, I put it to the test, and within 2 months, I got the job that changed my life forever, and I mean, it was just incredible. So throughout 2 decades, I guess it was 33, 43, no, maybe 18 years before I wrote the book.
Oh,
yeah, it was 18 years, I guess 33 to 49, whatever that is, right? 17. I can't do math.
yeah, that's a math thing. It's a math thing for me too. So we'll just leave it to the powers that be, and we'll call it an even 20.
This is a long time.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of practice. So, I did a lot of self-help. I read so many self-help books throughout, my sobriety. And I just started like really figuring out what I wanted and focus and fearless. Well, I added the fearless, but I took action because when you take action, the universe is like, oh, you're serious, right? We can sit here and write all we want. And that's a part of what you do too. But if you don't put action into what you want, it's going to happen a lot slower, right? And I'm impatient. So I put action and then you have to feel it existing and have faith that it's going to happen and that you're worthy. Because that was a big thing. I didn't think I was worthy for a long time.
Right.
So I really had to trust and find my self-worth. It was a lot of work on my part. But as far as like the 5 F words, it's rather easy if you just do it.
Yeah. So let's start just at number 1. And I want to go one step before that because, I read the book, and for anybody that is reading it, what I love about it is it's a fast read. I can go through it. I get what I have to do. The fluff is taken out, and it really is a matter of fact and to the point. But there's something that you said. Oh, go ahead.
Because that was so important to me. I read a book on my way from LA to New York called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. That book was like 99 pages. It was small. And I was like, I don't know why I said this to myself. If I ever write a book, it's going to be fast and to the point because I felt so good reading that book. And so that was when I went to go write this book. I'm like, it's got to be fast. I don't want any fluff words. Like I want it direct and to the point. I had a writing coach with me, Suzanne Mulroy. And so her and I really collaborated together. And I'm like, oh, take out that word. I don't even know what that means. So it was supposed to be for the beginner.
Right. Yeah. And I love where this is going. And in your introduction, you use the word. There's 2 things I want to get to in here. You use the word dream big or dream big or don't bother. And I just want to read a quote in here that I've got this all highlighted in here because this really meant a lot to me personally, because I think that so many people in our industry, either now or at one time, feel this way. And I did at one time. I still do. I still have imposter syndrome. But you wrote, for years, I didn't think I was worthy. I wasted a lot of time feeling disempowered or convinced that somehow my dreams didn't matter, or they were too big, or not big enough. I even had moments where I thought, who do you think you are to have those? Who do you think you are to have those dreams? How dare you think that you deserve that kind of money, success, or recognition? And then you went on to say, how did I know I thought so poorly of myself? The answer was in my actions, relationships, and what I was willing to accept. And I think that so many people in our industry feel that way. And sometimes I think they're just afraid. And maybe even we've been told not to dream so big or just to accept what they got. Is that where that came from? Give us a little more on your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, how many times did I hear, like, I didn't meet my husband until I was 37. So how many times did I hear, I think your expectations are a little high. Maybe you should lower your expectations. And I'm like, why? I'm like, and then I started thinking, well, maybe I should. Am I not worthy of having someone who loves me and treats me well? And like, we're a team and, all of these things that I wanted. And I thought, no, you know what? I would rather be alone than in an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
And so I met my husband when I was 37, and we've been together 17 years.
Nice. And, I hear that from so many people about that. You've got to, and I know you go on to this, and maybe I don't want to jump too far ahead here because I know you have areas in there where you talk about negativity, etc. But I think that sometimes you've just got to get rid of those people, or just learn how to deal with people that bring negativity in your life. So, and I think that's it. That's where that negativity towards ourselves comes from. So, but I love that part that you put right in the introduction. So let's go into when you say figure. That's number one F.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What should people be aware of for that?
You have to figure out what you want. Like, that is a number one thing you need to do, is figure out what you want. And I even, I even go into, if it helps you to figure out what you don't want first, at least then you can start there.
Yeah.
You don't want to, let's just say in a salon, you don't want to work for someone else. You don't want to work with negative people, so all of these things. And so that will help you figure out exactly where you want, what you want, or even with relationships, or, being a mom or a dad, what kind of, job do you want, or career that will allow you to be present.
Yeah.
So
I liked where that goes, because you said, look, if I know what I don't want, actually just finding the opposite of that is kind of permission for you to say, oh, well, then this is what I want, especially if we feel that we're, like, I love what you're talking about, you deserve to get what you get, in your career, et cetera. And I think that sometimes if we don't think we deserve it, then we just don't go for it. We don't ask for it. We don't feel that that we're worthy of it. And that's what I love that you talk about in there. In that figure, you said, I just want to quote it here. Dive below the surface of what you want to understand the bigger picture. Is that what we're talking about here, or is there more to that?
Yeah. I mean, dig deep. And that's where, like, writing and journaling and just really get into, my 5 F words kind of all flow together.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even if you're not exactly sure what you want, if you start feeling the way you want to feel when you have what it is you want, when you figure that out, and you start having faith, knowing that you're going to get the life that you want, or the career or money or whatever it is, right? And so that, just using the 5 Fs to help you get to the place of figuring out what you want, if that all makes sense,
yes,
right?
It does.
Because sometimes it's really hard to dig below the surface of exactly what you want.
Like I feel I need it, but I haven't been to a therapist yet. But I think when I think of what they do, that's kind of what they do, and it can't always happen in one session. So what the TVs tell me, but that's what I hear that you're saying right now is sometimes when we go after goal setting or say, what is it I really want to do? It's like a sit down one time sitting for 15 or 20 minutes. And then miraculously your life is supposed to be exposed to you, but that's not the way life works.
Right.
Sometimes you've got to spend some time thinking about it. And,
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's really helpful. If you have a friend or a partner that you can open up to, because not everybody wants to see you succeed, first of all. So if it's someone that you can trust and you can kind of like that therapist, right? And you're sort of bouncing ideas off from each other and where you want to head in your life, that's very helpful too, in figuring out what you want.
Yeah. And I, you've obviously, and for those of you who may not have watched the previous episode, I invite you to go back and listen to the ones where Jerilynn and I were talking about your career in the voice and for talking about Shark Tank, etc. So you've had some amazing people around you that are billionaires that you can seek advice and counsel from too, right? Did they have any input in helping you with this, or and when I say that, not writing the book, but in quick little things that they can tell you that you've learned from them?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first of all, Mark, Damon, and Robert, and Kevin too. I mean, because I work with the males, the men.
Yep.
They're just all so interesting. And like, it's like Robert said one time that I heard, I've been on that show, I think, I'm going to say 12, 13 years, something like that. At one point, Robert said, you got to dress for the job that you want, not the job you have.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And so at Shark Tank, I always do dress nicer, but I like bought blazers and I'm like, dressing business, right? And it just felt better. And those guys are always, I mean, Damon, he's my people shark, right?
Yeah.
He's like always wanting to shoot video to get out information. He did that with my ovarian cancer symptoms and stuff that's on my Instagram. He also did a video with him and I in my book when it was coming out. He's just like he wants to promote everyone.
Yeah.
And Mark is just lovely. He'll answer any questions for me that I need or want. So he's just been lovely. It's just, I try not to take advantage of being around them because I want to be professional because I'm their hairstylist. But I also I'm a sponge when I'm around all of those sharks because they are so smart and so intelligent. And I just want to absorb everything. Tonight, I got invited to an event from Damon John. I don't even know. I mean, it's just I'm like, how did I get invited? And it's like he's handpicked like investors, entrepreneurs, and it's kind of like a mastermind mingling. And I said to my husband, I'm like, how did I get invited to this? He's like,
I can tell you why. In the universe, and because you deserve to be there. But I'm sensing what you go through, what I go through too, is like all of a sudden, even though and this is what I love about you, is that you write about it, but yet we all have our own foibles too. We can write about this stuff, we know what it is, but sometimes we can fall back into our own trap of disbelief. And I know that he would not have invited you if you weren't worthy of being there. And I think everybody else that's listening or watching right now would know that. But we tend to think that somehow maybe we just lucked out and got there. But I know that you didn't. But with that, I mean, he had a lot of focus on getting the people he wanted there. And I want to jump into the focus of what step 2 was. Because I know you said these intermingle and they all happen at the same time. But just to give some focus on focusing, this is my command of the English language is absolutely, I'm astounding you with it. But what is it in focus?
I
How
mean,
do you tell
focus,
people that you really get down to focusing what it is you need and want?
right? Focus is like where focus goes, energy flows,
Yeah.
right? So if you're focusing on um, positivity and where you're wanting to go, and doing, just focus on the life that you want. So if you're focusing, this is what I tell people, it's like wherever you're focusing is what you're going to attract more of, right? So sometimes we get into our heads and we start getting a little negative, and then all of a sudden you're seeing that snowball effect of like, then you're surrounding yourself by everybody who's in this negative mindset, and it's like you're like, whoa, 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 we all know better than this. We got to stop and just really go back to where we're headed and what we want, and staying positive, even though that can be really hard sometimes. So I mean, I guess, a perfect example that I share about is, my son. He was like 12 years old at the time, and he plays baseball, and he kept focusing on the home run. He's like a heavy hitter, and so he kept striking out. And I was like, dude, you need quit focusing on the home run. Like, you just focus on the ball.
Yeah.
And focus on the ball, not the outcome. And that's really that right there teaches me so much. It's like, why I got to focus on what's ahead of me, like where I'm pivoting right now in my career. So it's like, focus on that rather than the big scary outcome that, oh my God, am I worthy of that, right? Just focus on what's directly in front of me.
And I think that is so important right now, especially focusing on, like, I can't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly the words, but I remember in the book you were talking about positivity and love, and self-love, and those things, those factors that keep you. And even you were talking, what I loved about it, which I believe so wholeheartedly in, is gratitudes, and being able to out loud say the things that you're grateful for. Do
Yeah.
you think that what we went through from 20 to possibly even right now has shifted people's mindset from, might have been more positive before, but all of a sudden I notice a lot more negativity in our industry. Do you think that came partly from there? And how do we, and does this help us get out of it?
Well, I think our industry got hit pretty hard, right? At least the salon end of it did. In the television and film, did not get hit during that time, but we're getting hit now, with because we've got looming strikes and all this productions leaving the country, and I've never been slower in my life. But yes. And that's where it's like you constantly have to go back to, yes, you have to change your mindset.
Yeah.
You have to get into gratitude. It's like, it's not like, I'm not like, oh my God, my life is always amazing. And like, I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed. #blessed. No, I don't even write that. It's like, I am right now really getting back into the basics, because now I am kind of in a pivoting. I'm not going to say struggling. I'm in a challenging obstacle of changing and pivoting my career a bit, right? So it's constantly getting back into the basics of gratitude. And yes, I like to say 10 gratitudes a day of what I'm grateful for, and if I get into love, like love rather than fear, that helps me get out of it much quicker. And breathing, breathing, love, and faith.
Yeah. I think that, and, I just had a revelation there. Probably I noticed the negativity in our industry because that's where I am. And I got that revelation when you said, it wasn't so much that for you, but it was just right now based on what's happening to you right now. And I think I notice in the industry that it's sometimes that negativity can get there, but I think that most people that I know that are successful at what they do, whether that's, just minimally successful in their major success in their mind, but other people don't know who they are, or people that are like leaders of the pack in our industry, such as yourself. And then, but they're moving forward. They're always trying to keep their mindset moving forward and trying to keep the negativity out. I think that's a critical part of what we do. Because personally, even I had a little bit of a health thing going on a while back, and I just found myself getting really down on myself, wondering and questioning everything that was going on in my life and what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden I just went, look at it. I went through that once or twice before in my life, and I just said, look at, all I want to do is love what I do, have fun at what I do. And then yes, I think validation is in there, or at least maybe it's part of that's for me that I need. But as soon as I shifted my brain, it was like just an immediate turnaround. Yeah, so I really do think that it is just sometimes the focus can happen in just in a flash of the eye, just by shifting your mind, going back to gratitudes, etc. Now, let's jump into the third one, you're fearless. Tell us what you mean by that one, because that, I think, is the hardest part for a lot of people.
Well, for sure, because fearless, I actually put the F fearless in front of action, because I'm like, you just got to take action. But honestly, what prevents us from taking action? It's fear. Mm-hmm. Fear usually tells us we're not good enough. You can't do that. You're like, what are people going to think? And, always afraid of what, people are going to judge me. So you got to put fearless, be fearless, and just drive through it. Right. And the action lets the universe know you're serious about what you want to do.
Yeah.
When I was before the book was written, I had actually wanted to talk to beauty school students. And I just started like, okay, well, how can I do that? And so I reached out, even though I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never public spoke, like that's scary. But I said to myself, you know what? You're going to go for it. And I wanted to work with a brand company. And so I reached out to some companies that I wanted to work with. Some of them were not answering me. And some of them, one was like, well, what do you have in mind? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. and so, but that action of reaching out to those companies led to me working with an extension company that I did this cosmetology beauty school for free, right? Just to demonstrate how to use these easy updo extensions that she had. And I loved the company, and I did it as a favor. And she's like, and you can talk about your dream big stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds fun. But I met Jim Cox from Beautycast Network. And I just started talking to him what I wanted to do and speak to kids and beauty school students about basically how I got to where I'm at through figuring out what I want, focus, fearless action, feel it, and faith. He was all in. And so he called me, and he's the one, just by me saying yes, taking the action to those other companies, brought in this other company I didn't even think about. Then the universe is like, here's this. Now you're going to here's your connections you're going to make. So I still talk to Jim, and he put me in touch. He's amazing. He put me in touch with so many people, including because I'm like, well, if I'm going to speak in front of people, I need a speaking coach. And so he hooked me up with Suzanne Mulroy, who used to work for Milady. And so she put together, a keynote speaking slideshow and all of this stuff. And that's just how the universe works, right? Is you tell it what you want to do and you take the action. It's simple, but it's so scary. That's why you got to be fearless.
Yeah. And
I know.
What I loved is just like it all started with a yes, didn't it? Where most people say, well, no, I can't do that. You just start it with a yes. Just sometimes it's just, what do you call it? Just wild abandon. Just, I'll jump in there. I think I hated that expression when I first heard it, but it actually is true. People said, fake it till you make it. But I think that you have to have some content in there. You have to have something worthy of listening to. I think when you fake it just means, well, I'm going to throw myself into the fire, hope that everything works out, and then you'll pull yourself through. And I believe you do.
Yeah. Well, that's just like when a producer says something to me and oh, we want all of this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? And then, you collaborate. So it's just like, say yes.
Yep.
And then figure it out later.
Yep.
One of my friends, he called me from Atlanta. He was like, oh my God, I just got asked to be a department head of this like independent film. I'm like, you said yes, right? He's like, I haven't said anything yet. I'm so nervous. And I'm like, first of all, you're going to say yes.
Yep.
And then I'm going to teach you everything you need to know right over the phone.
Good.
And he's like,
good coaching, by the way. Good coaching, by the way. This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. So I just want to jump back something to you said that and give it some interest. You said that about your brain is always talking. You say, I'm not worthy and everything that you can't do. I just did a little bit of research on it, and there's actually a part of your brain. It's actually called the amygdala, and there's as most people heard of a lizard brain before, and the lizard brain is that part of your brain that's been, evolved into you, and it always wants to keep you safe. It's not risk. It is risk adverse. It doesn't want you to take risks. It wants you to be safe, and that's what tends to hold us back in life. And whereas the prefrontal cortex that you have is your, what I call wizard brain. So you have your wizard brain, your lizard brain. Is the wizard brain is what makes your wise decisions. And you, like you did, you say, okay, I'm going to make this decision. And the lizard brain goes, I don't know how a lizard talks, but it would say, no, you can't do that, whatever. But that's kind of what that fight that's always going on in our brain. And I think that's, if we understand that it is just a reaction from our brain, but it's not true. And I think that's the biggest thing for people to get is if they understand that that's not true and you can still do it. And when you're fearless, in your book, you wrote down in there how you've just got to do it. And I think that's something you've just got to jump on, like you told your friend. Yep. I heard somebody else talk about knowledge destroys fear. And it is true to a degree, but only if you practice what you're doing, right? If you say, like, to me, I'm terrified of heights and I'm not brave enough to go bungee jumping or anything. But if you were bungee jumping and the first time you did it, you would be terrified, knees would be shaking. But if you had to do it every day, and if you did it every day after a week, you'd go, well, there's nothing, you just jump off and come back. If you did it after a couple of months every day, you'd probably be bored. So it's just the practice that you've got. And what I love that you wrote in the book was about education and how educate yourself on everything. Could you speak just a little bit more to that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it always keeps you evolving, when you're educating yourself on no matter what it is. Yeah, I just, especially in our industry, it's changing so much, right? And even now, I mean, I don't know how it's going to affect the salon industry, but AI is going to affect the film industry tremendously. And it's like, rather than like being all, negative about it and nervous and, in fear, it's like, well, how can I use this to my advantage?
Exactly.
And so I downloaded an app, GPT chat, and I started using that to help me. And then I'm seeing more and more people doing like makeup through AI. Like one of my girlfriends, she's a makeup artist and she's an influencer online as well. And she was like using, to show someone on their face, like how to contour your nose and stuff with that. And I'm like, so there she's taking something that is inevitable and utilizing it to her advantage. Right.
Yep.
And so that's what we have to do too, is we just constantly have to be educating ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the part of the evolution to take you from one area to the next, isn't it? You see that in people where it's like that old thing. I think I heard my teacher said it, you're either a burn on, a burn up, or a burnout. And if burnouts are the ones that do the same thing over and over again, and eventually the trend passes you by. The burn up is the one that just is they start off and they just end up in a ball of flames, and then nobody hears them again. But the burn ons are the people like you, the ones that you've weathered the flame. But then as the problems hit you, as things change, you tend to evolve into what you do. And that's what we had a little meeting before we had this for people listening and watching. And we were talking a bit about that, how your plan to evolve more in what you do as well. So yeah, I think that's critical. So on feel, give us like a little bit more. I think we've been finding out how these all fit together, but feeling, what does that, if you had to explain feel to our industry, what would that be?
Well, I mean, first of all, feeling was really difficult for me in the beginning. Yeah. When I first read the book, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting, it was all about how you feel. And I had just gotten sober. So like I said, feeling was like, ugh, didn't feel good to me. So just like starting to feel, like for me, it was, I am a Hollywood hairstylist. So like, what would I feel like if I was actually like that? And I just felt like, yes, like I am successful. I'm, talented and ambitious and like all of these feelings. How would I feel? And so for me, like helping people is such a big deal for me. I love to speak and educate people on hair thinning, hair loss, scalp health, my industry. I love to do that. So like, how does that make me feel? That makes me feel like I'm helping people. Like I feel great doing that. And so just getting whatever it is, if it's like, oh, laying on a beach in the Bahamas, how do you feel when that's going on? Do you need to bring that into your moment? Whatever it is that, like walking up a trail, up a mountain with like nature is so peaceful and beautiful. And like, how does that make you feel? So you have to find, even if you fake it till you make it, like you said, find something that puts you in like that time that you're in love. When you fall, like when I fell for my husband, the butterflies and like the excitement and like, oh, he texted me. And, of course, if it's some guy that you don't want texting you, he's texting me all the time. I can't believe it. Oh my God, he's so annoying. But my husband was texting me all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, he's so amazing. So like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, because I think inside there you were talking about the visualization process that goes along with it. Because I think that as soon as you impart one of those emotions, that feeling that you have, you also start to visualize and see where it is that you want to go. And I think if you can put them to, oftentimes when we're talking about people going on to stage and people that get have stage fright or get nervous or whatever, I remember my teacher, Blair Singer, taught me this years ago. When if you just imagine, if you say courage, I have to remember the words right now. Courage, it's courage. But I imagine myself in here. Courage, 100% courageous, 100% love, and oh Lord, the third one is it's. I imagine myself with my wife's hand. That's my love. Courageous is when I'm rappelling off the side of a mountain. Oh, and successful, and that's a time when you were successful in your life. So if you can, when he always taught us if you can take when you're what's the time in your life when you were 100% courageous, and then you visualize yourself. And I had that flood back to me when I was reading your book, because you talked about what does it feel like? What are the smells that are around you? What's happening around you? What does it look like? And if you do that with each of the experiences that you have with courage, love, and success, then he always told me that if you just walked on stage and you were 100% successful, 100% loved, and 100% courageous, you wouldn't have to think about anything else because you have those three things with you. So I love when you were talking about in the book about feeling, etc. But you now let me ask you a simple: when you talk about this stuff, do you write it down as well, or is it more a part of you that just says, when it comes to manifesting, is it I manifest it, I'm thinking it all the time? Some people write down stuff, some people don't. What's your
Yeah.
method?
I do enjoy writing things down because I really think that putting pen to paper really is better than, writing it in your phone notes is fine, but really putting your pen to paper is so you can't imagine how much actually comes out of your pen, when you just keep writing. So I do like that. I don't do it every day by any means. It's I recently wrote down exactly what I wanted for this year. And I'm also open to whatever's for the, for the best.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
it's interesting when you're talking about, I love the journaling is, I've never really mastered it, and I'm always in such awe of people that can. But I know what I have done in the past is where I've said, here's the things that I want out of what I do, and sometimes I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do it weekly, but sometimes I don't only get around to it once a month or whatever. But I think that the fact of getting the thoughts in your brain, because sometimes people will talk about manifesting. And if you don't understand what manifesting is, it can be tough for people that are, I always think, the logic minded. I've got to write everything down. Here's the path I want to get. But the reason why I think that your book is so necessary is to put those two together. Like, is how you can get some things you write down. Here's what I really want. But then you don't just leave that alone. You got to walk away believing it and looking forward to it as well in your life.
Yeah. Well, what's so great about that is and this is where it's you want to give up control. Okay.
Oh.
So that's the faith part. Okay. So you want to give up control because whatever's the highest good for you and everybody around you. Right. So when you decide what you want and you start creating it and you're doing your meditation and visualizing and you're feeling it, it's I'm open. I have this vision of what my life is going, where it's headed right now. But I'm also universe, whatever's for the highest good of me and everybody around me. Right. And that's where you have to give up control, because when you control, then you are not allowing.
There was something, I'm just looking through my notes in my book here, because there was an experience that you had, and actually when it's on faith, and I loved in there, then you said you had my own relationship with faith was evolving, and I'm kind of jumping into your fifth one right now. And you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about faith, and I think faith to a lot of people can mean a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But then you said your sponsor told you to meditate and pray, and then you talked about how hard that was at the beginning. Can you talk to that point?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't grow up with any sort of spirituality or religion. And so it was, a lot of, yeah, my sponsor was like, because 12-step programs, there's a lot of, praying and stuff. And I was like, oh gosh, this is really difficult for me. I don't know if there's a God. I don't, it was like, I can believe in universe and energy. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's like, fine, but I want you to start praying and just act as if. And I was like, fine, I will. Cause like I said, I was desperate. And I just started praying, and then something came over me, and I was like, I knew I wasn't alone. And even now, when I'm like yesterday, I was driving, I was speaking at a salon about scalp health and stuff. And I'm driving out there, and I was going through, my gratitudes and then like my visualization, and I got this chill. And I was like, yes, yes. When I get those chills or goosebumps, I'm like, ooh, yeah, okay, yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Just be open, right? And that's kind of how it is. And I think we all get that, right? Yeah. Like we all will occasionally be like, ooh, yep, okay. That's just like the universe or whatever you believe in giving you that nudge of like, we got you. Yeah. We got you.
Yeah, to me, it's almost like what I hear, because I get those too. I get that chill in there, and I get it kind of when I feel that there's something out there giving me a hand and a little nudge along to let me know that I am good enough to do this. I can do this. And then I think that's that spark of self-belief, whether some people believe that it comes from you within or with the universe, et cetera. I believe that you have to have a little bit of outside help to help you with that as well, whether it's your own mind, universe, whatever. But to me, that part's really, really important, that you have faith, even if you just feel, I just believe in me. I believe in me enough to be able to do this. So that was great. And I love, and here's the part in your afterword. I have to look this up again because I highlighted this in here, because I think this is what was really helpful for me in this book. Because you wrote down there, this is the 5 F words into action. And then you want to say, and I'm going to skip down a couple lines, and then you want to say, whatever is comfortable for you is right. The key is to let go of the outcome and allow the universe energies to align with your desires. And then you went on to say, I never said it was easy, but it's simple. So,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that was go ahead.
I was going to say, what's so crazy is this morning I was doing a meditation. And by the way, my meditation is like 5 minutes, right? Like that's all I can do. But I knew we were coming on here today with this book, and I also was like, what is it? I just was like, what is it I need to hear today? Right. From my book. And I opened it to that page, and I was expecting to, because, I know where faith and feel are, and I know where fearless action is. And so I meant to open it up kind of in the middle, and somehow it opened up to that page near the back. Right. And then I read that page, and I was like, of course.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and that's that. Well, first, I loved it. And I'm going to go back to the beginning where it was a quick and simple read. And it really was to the point. It left out the fluff, and it gave me the messages that I need to do. And so to me, I really feel that some of the things that I needed to do that I haven't done, this book has helped me to get back on track to do that. So
That's it.
it was just, I think and again, it's available on Amazon for those of you watching. There's the book, the 5 F words to manifesting your life. And I highly suggest it as a great read. Jerilynn, I just have just a quick thing to you is that, is what in your life right now, what is it that, places you want to go? Like, what is it that you would really love to do next? And how are you going to use this to get where you really want to go next?
Gosh, well, I mean, I always want to keep The Voice and Shark Tank as long as, like, I will ride those shows for as long as they'll have me. Okay. Those are my favorite shows. But I also am on a mission of scalp health, non-surgical hair solutions, among my extensions for finer hair, but really educating hairstylists about all of this is where I want to be. Because like with the non-surgical hair solutions, it's like with people with more permanent hair loss, we think of men, right?
Yeah.
Like what is it? Just Men's Hair Club, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to focus more on educating hairstylists for the woman that's sitting in their chair, going through chemo hair loss, going through thyroid. There's now injectable diet weight loss,
solutions
that cause hair loss. So we want solutions that are going to help with the scalp and also with them feeling confident. So by putting, hair pieces, the biggest thing for me is a lot of pieces look wiggy to me, right? And so that is something that I really want to work on how not to have, say, everybody's calling these toppers, right? I hate that word, but the toppers. Now I want something, and I am getting educated on something that's more permanent that you do every like 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, yes.
That you can swim and shower and have a life. But sometimes they look a little wiggy. So like I really am trying, to focus on the styling of it too, right? How do you make this look natural?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm headed. It's really because I went through ovarian cancer, and it just opened up my mind to how hair is our confidence.
Yeah. What you just make me think of another industry great right in there. I was chatting with Stephen Moody the other day, and he was talking about that he went with a scissor company, and he kept working with them because they wanted to put his name on the scissors. And he said, I won't put the name on the scissors until you make me a pair of scissors that are exactly the way that I need it. And he had it down to the weight and the length and so on. And then he put his name on it. And I see, there's what I foresee for you is you can create that system that you can have has the right amount of weight, the right amount of, lace. I'm not sure what's all in the base. I'm assuming that they're lace bases that you glue on. And, and when I don't mean crazy glue or hot glue guns, et cetera, the proper glue that goes along with that. But there's another area for you to do and build on, is to build your systems with that company that has Jerilynn's name on, and go from there.
Yes. I hear you.
I hear you. Well, Jerilynn, I just want to thank you one more time for being on here and sharing with them, sharing with the people how the book came about, and just quite frankly, just for being so candid with us. So that I always believe that if people know that sometimes our lives haven't always been perfect, then they know that they can go on to greatness as well.
Of course. And I always answer, like if somebody DMs me or emails me, I always answer. I'm not one of those who's like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody's asking me.
What's the DM? Where do they go to for that?
Well, on Instagram, I have a DM, right? So it's my name, Jerilynn Stephens, which is hard to spell. So you could just say Hollywood hairstylist, and that's me. Yep. yeah, so Hollywood Hairstylist on Facebook as well. And yeah, so, but if you DM, you can always email me from if you don't want to DM and you want to email, there's a button for that too.
Yeah.
Or you go to my website.
You've got a contact, you have your contact and talk to right there. So, Jerilynn, thank you again so much. I really appreciate you. I love what you're doing for our industry. And I know that our paths will cross again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just like honored, so honored.
Well, the pleasure is just to know you has been a real pleasure in my life too. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.